Fights, leaks, dressing room tension. Mbappé called a dictator. Tchouameni throwing punches. Rudiger as the team bully. Vinícius was booed by his own fans. Real Madrid did not just lose control this season. So why did some of their biggest black superstars end up carrying the blame? And what really happened inside Madrid's dressing room? Real Madrid were supposed to look untouchable this season. Instead, the whole thing started to feel rotten. They went out of the Champions League in the quarterfinals, watched Barcelona take control of the title race, and the pressure inside Valdebebas turned vicious. Suddenly, it was no longer just about tactics or bad form. Reports described emergency meetings, disciplinary proceedings, and a dressing room where arguments were no longer staying private. That is what makes this story so dangerous. Once a club like Madrid starts leaking its own anger, every stare becomes a message, every absence becomes a scandal, and every star becomes a suspect. And right in the middle of that storm were Mbappe and Tchouameni. Mbappe came to Madrid as the dream signing, the kind of player who was supposed to finish the story, not complicate it. The numbers were still huge. He remained Madrid's top scorer this season. But at Real Madrid, numbers do not protect you when the mood turns ugly. Suddenly, fans were not talking about goals. They were talking about commitment, body language, and whether he really felt the weight of the badge. His approved trip to Sardinia during injury recovery became a symbol of everything supporters were angry about. That is how fast it changed. The superstar arrival became the easiest face to blame. Internally, Mbappe was being talked about like a dictator, and online, that label spread fast. Every angry reaction, every cold look, every moment where he seemed detached became proof for people who believed he had too much power. Fair or not, Madrid's dream signing was starting to look less like the final piece of the puzzle and more like the man bending the whole room around him. Tchouameni was never supposed to be the face of chaos. He was supposed to be one of the players who gave Madrid control, balance, and calm when everything around them got loud. But this season dragged him somewhere darker. Suddenly, his name was no longer attached to midfield stability. It was attached to anger, leaks, blame, and a dressing room clash that forced the whole club to confront how broken things had become. Madrid opened disciplinary proceedings after his bust-up with Valverde, turning Tchouameni from a quiet pillar into one of the central symbols of a team losing trust in itself. This was the moment the chaos stopped feeling like rumor and started looking undeniable. Tensions between Valverde and Tchouameni had already been building after an earlier training argument, then it exploded again. Valverde reportedly accused Tchouameni of leaking the first clash. Teammates had to separate them, and Valdebebas suddenly felt less like a training ground and more like a UFC backstage brawl. Shouting, pushing, flying punches, bodies being pulled apart, egos flying everywhere. Valverde ended up in hospital with a cut to the head, later needing stitches, and Madrid opened disciplinary proceedings against both players. And then came the punishment, a €500,000 fine each. No suspension, but a message loud enough for the whole dressing room to hear. This was not just a warning. This was Madrid telling everyone that the circus had gone too far. Once the club itself has to step in, this is no longer just frustration. It becomes evidence of a dressing room eating itself alive. And even though Valverde later said the injury came when he struck a table during the argument, not from being hit, the damage was already done. The image of Madrid was shattered. And then the anger became almost unbelievable. More than 70 million signatures against Mbappe. The same fans who spent years begging for him were now signing to push him out. To them, he was no longer just the top scorer. He was the dictator, the superstar with too much power, the man going on vacation while Madrid's season was burning. Madrid's dream signing had become Madrid's public enemy. Are you enjoying this video? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content on African heroes just like this. Then came the image that made everything worse. Mbappe was injured. Madrid were spiraling, and photos of him in Sardinia on a yacht landed at exactly the wrong moment. The trip had been approved by the club during his recovery period, and coach Álvaro Arbeloa said Mbappe could do what he wanted in his free time. But that did not matter once the pictures were out. At Real Madrid, perception moves faster than explanation. To angry supporters, it did not look like recovery. It looked like distance. It looked like a superstar detached from the crisis while the club was burning. And in a season full of tension, that image became a weapon against him. It was not just a holiday anymore. It became evidence in the court of fan opinion. And what made it even worse was the comparison nobody at Madrid wanted to hear. PSG looked freer after Mbappe left, reached 2 Champions League finals, and even won the trophy without him, while Madrid looked heavier after he arrived. That does not mean he caused everything, but when your old club looks more united without you, starts winning the biggest trophies without you, and your dream club starts falling apart around you, people turn you into the storyline. This is where it gets ugly, because the most dangerous part of a broken dressing room is not always the fight you can see. It is the trust that disappears after it. After the Valverde-Tchouaméni clash, Madrid's hierarchy had to hold emergency meetings, and the wider mood around the squad started to sound toxic. Who leaked what? Who betrayed who? Who was protected by the club? Who was getting blamed in public but defended in private? That is when a season stops feeling like sport and starts feeling like a scandal machine. Not just anger, suspicion. And that is why this cannot be framed as one ugly argument between 2 players. The whole squad started to feel volatile. There was another recent clash between Antonio Rudiger and Álvaro Carreras. Rudiger was also bullying and hitting players in the dressing room, turning every training session into another war zone. While Vinícius was being rejected by his own fans, booed, whistled, and blamed for the attitude problems people felt were poisoning the club, including clashes between him and the coach. And once that kind of mood takes over, every small incident becomes a scandal. A bad reaction in training becomes a war story. A private complaint becomes a leak. A cold look between teammates becomes proof that the dressing room has split. Different names, same atmosphere, same nerves. Same feeling that everybody inside Madrid was angry, exposed, and ready to snap. And once Real Madrid fans turn, the crisis stops being private. It becomes theater. Mbappe was still scoring, but his approved Sardinia trip turned him into a symbol of detachment. Vinícius had already been whistled by sections of the Bernabeu. Tchouameni was now tied to the ugliest internal clash of the season. Rudiger had become another symbol of the chaos, painted as the dressing room enforcer, bullying, provoking, and pushing teammates until every training session felt ready to explode. That does not mean every criticism was unfair, but it shows how quickly visible black superstars can become the face of collapse when a giant club starts falling apart. That is the question hanging over everything now. Madrid have already opened disciplinary proceedings, held emergency meetings, and watched the squad split under pressure. With the team heading toward a second straight trophyless season, it is reasonable to think this summer could bring punishments, exits, and a brutal internal reset. Maybe not a full clear-out, but something at this club has clearly cracked. So no, this was not just one fight, one bad photo, or one overreaction from angry fans. Mbappe arrived as the solution. Tchouameni was supposed to bring control. Instead, both became symbols of a Madrid season where nothing felt under control anymore. They did not create all the chaos, but by the end, they were standing right in the middle of it. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content.